Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Hi, everybody. It's Julie Schrager and Rhonda Marie from the Nothing But Julie podcast. How you guys doing? What's up, Rhonda?
Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm doing well. And how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
So last week we spoke about, COVID, a year in review, and we decided that we were going to do our topic this week on technology and if we feel that it's going to save or destroy humanity. I thought that was an interesting topic because I think that there's probably a lot of people that have differing opinions on it. How do you feel about it? And then I'll give my opinion, and then we can just kind of break it down a little bit.
So I both love and hate technology.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people probably feel that way. I love it because imagine if you had been in quarantine for this year and you didn't have social media, or we weren't able to like connect on this podcast, or you would have felt even more isolated. But then it's also that flip side where the internet is kind of like the wild, wild west where nobody's regulating it and people can put out so much bad stuff. And of course, all the great things technology does, like cars and air conditioning and, in science and in medicine. So, I think it's both good and bad, just like
I agree.
else. Like, I think it's based on the user who's using it is how they're going to use it. So I think technology could save humanity if we could just use it in the right way.
And why isn't it regulated? Why do you think?
I don't know. I think because the technology moves faster than the laws.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
The technology evolves so fast and the laws are, for goodness sakes, we're still bringing up Supreme Court cases that were decided at the turn of the, from the 1800s to the 1900s, and people want to re-argue those. So I think that our legislature moves very slowly. And
not only that, but how can they keep up?
Right.
Unless it is regulated. But can you imagine? I don't know. Maybe certain sites like, the underground sites.
Right. Like
that are really.
Right. Like, so like harmful. We talked about human trafficking and like those kind of sites where people are doing really terrible things. And it's kind of unregulated. And
there's a whole underground world that a lot of people don't know about or do know about.
Right.
And that's how advanced things have gotten. And there are websites. It doesn't take a genius to figure out, what those websites are that you can get onto.
Right.
But I think it's become very dangerous. And I think that computers are just getting smarter and smarter.
Yes. It's like when you talk about something and then all of a sudden it's advertised to you.
Right. Exactly. That is, I actually just saw that on a website. I'm like, how did it know that I was looking up cookie recipes?
Right. Like,
how did it, because it's in your history.
I guess so. It's in your history. But, we talked about how it's all connected. Like I can look up something on my browser and then Facebook ads kind of target me. So they're all
And I
connected.
think that's yeah, it is. It's definitely, but if you were to get rid of your history, I don't know if those ads would still be there.
I don't know. And every once in a while I do clear out my history because I think it makes my computer run faster. I don't know if that's true or not.
It's a good idea. I never thought of that before.
Just every once in a while my computer seems like it's lagging. I'm like, well, maybe there's too much stuff saved. And
I have my Google Chrome set to erase all of my history when I'm off it.
That's a good
Like it
idea to
doesn't
just have it.
save.
Yeah, to just have it.
You can set it up. Yeah, in your settings.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just to have it when you're done. The downside of that is I don't remember the passwords to anything.
Oh.
And so then, it doesn't, like, I recently, my phone reset and I lost a bunch of stuff on my phone. And then all of the apps were like, you have to re-sign in. And I was like, well, I don't remember my password.
Yeah, that sucks. I totally, but isn't there like this thing that you can get or download on the computer that allows you to save passwords, like a password
Yes.
protector? But I wonder if that's connected with the history too.
Mine's not. I have all Apple products, so I don't know about other products, but all of my Apple products are saved into like my Apple ID. And so, I mean, heaven forbid anybody gets into that. They're going to have my whole life. But, but
that would not be good.
It saved everything for me. The only one I don't have it saved is like my banking.
Oh, yeah. Well,
those kind of passwords because
sure.
I don't want people getting into those things.
Mm-mm. I have a lot of things saved too, but it's for things that aren't really very important. But I was thinking about this whole technology thing and how it, can be abused as well. And I was reading an article, what was it, the other day, I guess. And there was, I guess McDonald's employees are asking for a minimum of $15 because of the whole minimum wage thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't really like what it was on Facebook. I didn't like what this person wrote, be careful what you wish for. And he put something below it where now McDonald's are going to be automated where you can place your order at a kiosk in a McDonald's.
So they have those they have them in some of the McDonald's around me. I don't go there very often.
Yeah, because I'm never in there, right?
Like I never go there. Now, when I used to work and meet parents to do parent education, sometimes we would meet at McDonald's because it's close to their home and whatever. And so I won't sit in a place without ordering something, and so I'd always at least get like coffee or something. But yeah, you could order just on the kiosk, and then they bring it to you.
Well, the whole "be careful what you wish for" was kind of rude. I mean, it's just a bad mentality. Just because someone is asking for a raise doesn't mean you screw them and you buy multi-million-dollar, kiosk machines. But it's just the point of what we're talking about, how technology has been taking over the world, even at, you got Walmarts and Targets, and there's so many places now that have the self-checkout. And so people are becoming, less and less needed at certain places. And it sucks because, these are jobs that are being taken away from people. And I understand from like a big corporation that, they want to save money and this and that, and possibly saving money on having it more automated. But computers are not people. Yeah, people make mistakes, but computers, if they go down,
right,
well, who's going to help you? The
right.
people at their cash register. So right. I don't know.
And also, like, I mean, I understand, like, then there's a lot of arguments on the whole minimum wage thing.
Yes.
And I recently read that the average age of a minimum age worker right now is actually 35.
Wow. Really?
So yes. And so you figure that's like a full on, an adult with a family. And so, I mean, there's a lot of opinions about that. But I think like going to all technology, like how often do those automated ones go down? Like you're in Walmart and you're trying to check out and they have so many registers. They have two people working. And so you're like, well, I'll go through the automated one. But then only one of those is working as well.
Right.
Right. Or one time
you still need a human to help you because something happened with the machine.
Right. Like one time I put a $50 bill into the cash thing and it didn't register it. And I panicked because I was a young single mother at the time. And I was like, this machine cannot just take $50 from me.
Oh my God.
But the machine didn't register it. And so I had to call a person over and they had to open the machine up. And it turns out the bill had gotten stuck in there in the pulley system. And so they were able to pull it out and reset the machine and I didn't lose my money. But what if I just had to depend on that machine?
Exactly. I don't think we ever will. I'm certain, it's like, okay, so I guess this is kind of touching on artificial intelligence in a way. Although I know that people think that, and maybe I'm wrong, that artificial intelligence is more of like a robotic type of a thing. But I always thought that artificial intelligence was also like these types of kiosks where they do human work.
See, I
And
tend to agree with you. Like, I don't think artificial intelligence has to be like what we saw on the Jetsons or on all these
right,
movies. I
right,
think like even your phone has artificial intelligence
right.
within it.
Well, I'm reading this. Well, I'm on this website that says artificial intelligence is software built to learn or problem solve.
Right. So like when you ask Siri a question and they recognize
Exactly.
your voice and they know what you want based on what you're asking.
Right. And that's what it says here. It says digital assistants like Amazon's Alexa, Apple's Siri, even Tesla's
Yeah.
autopilot are powered by artificial intelligence. So, and I'll tell you something, it's a bit scary. I am a little bit scared about, technology and what will happen possibly in the future. And I think that there's just as many people on the fence as we are, where we feel that it's really good, but it could be, really bad. And I'm a little nervous about the future of technology because it's become so advanced. Look at how advanced it is now.
I
And
know.
and it's hard to think of how much more advanced it can become, but it can. I mean, Teslas can drive
So
themselves.
that's what I was just going to talk about. Teslas can drive themselves, and then you see all these cars that are like, they have the extra like accident safety where the car will apply
Exactly.
the brakes. Now,
Right.
what happens if that malfunctions and you're
Exactly.
on the interstate and you're going 80 miles an hour and that that machine, that artificial intelligence malfunctions and you really don't need to slam on the brakes,
Hmm.
but it does, and now you've just caused a
And that,
huge accident.
yes, and can I just add also, what about young kids? I don't know
Right.
if parents of young kids are going to teach them how to drive defensively like they should because they have all the bells and whistles for safety. So, like, you've
Right,
got the
because
cameras, right? You don't
yeah,
have to always look. For me, I'm happy that I have a camera, but I was still brought up in the age of
where
not
you
having
look.
that. And
Yes.
I still look, but sometimes if I'm pulling out of my driveway and my husband has an SUV, if he's parked to the right or the left of me, he could be blocking the
Oh,
right
he's
part of,
blocked. Yeah.
right. And so by the time I can see who might be passing, I can hit them. So I have the sensors and I'm happy about that. But I would never just solely rely on that. And I get concerned about kids learning to drive and if the parents are becoming a little more, reliable or
Right.
reliant on this technology and other technologies. I mean, kids don't even have to do math homework anymore because they can go to certain websites that will break it
And
down for
plug it
them.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so look, I mean, just that there's some math that we don't even need.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Some
Of
of us
course.
just don't understand, but I don't know. It's very scary, and I'm a gadget lover.
Me
I
too.
right?
Now, all the time I ask Mark, I'm like, can we get I want an Alexa so bad. Like, I
Oh
just,
my God, yes.
I just want one so bad. And he is like, no, he does not. He is not a technology kind of person. And so he's like, no, I don't want that. It's going to be spying on us. And I'm like, we have 3 smart TVs in our home. Don't you think they're already spying on us if they are?
Yeah.
We both have an iPad. We have, iPhones, computers. So we
Yeah.
have, if they're spying on us through it, they're spying on us through it. Like we've already got all the technology. And I just want an Alexa or one of those things so badly. And he's like, absolutely not. And there has been a lot of instances of they were recording people in their homes. And I'm sure that has happened, but I just kind of don't care because I don't do anything
Well,
that I would.
I remember reading about this whole Alexa thing and all of my privacy setting. I mean, I literally just use it for music or
That's
like,
what I want to do. I want to be able to, like on the commercial, say, "Hey Alexa, play
yeah,
this song."
right. But you have to just be careful of privacy settings, even on your iPhone. And that's the main thing with me. That is where I'm very iffy about technology, about the privacy, because the more
Yes.
technology there is, the less privacy you have. And people think, oh, well, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on this. I'm not on that, which is definitely a plus for protecting your privacy. But do you know how many websites have your information? You could just go online and
Yes.
read, find out where people live, find out what their income is, if they're Republican, Democrat, Independent.
Yes, you can. There's a website where you can look up. You can't tell how someone voted, but you can tell if they voted.
Tell if they voted.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that is what's really scary about technology. I don't think that it's ever going to destroy humanity because, like we said earlier, there's definitely certain things that technology can't do. Like, for example, let's say you're a bookkeeper. Well, sure, you can go into QuickBooks or whatever piece of software you might have for your company, and it'll do most of the work for you. But
You
what?
still have to double check it though, because I have to do
Yes,
that every month for my businesses. And if I enter that number wrong, the machine
exactly.
won't know.
Well, that's just it. And sometimes you need to manually input things when
Yes.
you're talking to someone. Who's the one that's going to always put in the amount that you just got paid for a particular job? How is the computer supposed to know to do that? They don't. You're the one that, unless someone pays you, let's say through a certain Venmo or whatever. Let's say someone pays you through QuickBooks or whatever, and it automatically goes into QuickBooks. But it's not like, as a dog walker, I offer like so many different forms of payment. I can't tell you how many people just don't use it and want to use a check. And I'm very, I don't like getting checks because you never know what's going to happen. But,
I
but
don't either. I'd much rather have that electronic form of payment.
right, exactly. But the fact is that if people do pay me a certain way, sometimes it can go into, my accounts receivable. But that you still need humans, to still run the world. You can't just rely on technology because technology always breaks down. Do you
Yes.
remember? Did you see that movie Hidden Figures with the women who worked for NASA?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember, and I forget the actress's name, but the men who were trained to get the IBM computer in NASA to work couldn't. And Octavia Spencer, and she got it to work. A human got a computer to work. You see, you can't just, what is the computer going to know that it's messing up and it has to fix itself? It reminds me like of Predator, that movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and like he
Yes.
could just press these buttons and he can like help fix himself, or even Terminator, like
Yes.
but that you have to still be part android. We're not. We're 100% human,
Right.
and we have to help fix these computers when something goes wrong, which is why I don't believe that it will ever destroy humanity with having to be so reliant on it. But I think that humans will destroy humans. I think that it's en route to look at what we're doing to each other now as it is. You
Well,
know, we're like the
yes.
only race that kills each other, are
Yes.
are filled with racism, protests, blah blah blah. I don't think that it's technology that's going to destroy humanity. I think it's humans or humanity
Yeah.
that's going to destroy
Right. We're going
humanity.
to destroy ourselves.
Well, yeah.
So Mark and I talked about the use of technology in war.
Mm.
And how war has changed with, even since the time when he was in Afghanistan, how much it's changed. And so we talked about what drone pilots and how they're kind of removed from the killing.
Yeah.
They just push a button and then they can evaporate an entire town, but they're never face to face with it. And so we talked about like how that might psychologically affect them later
Mm.
when they realize how many people they killed, but they didn't have that, like, there was no personal connection, because it looks like a computer screen and it's like you don't even see the real people on there. And so we talked about that and how technology is in fighting wars now.
Isn't that
And
crazy?
yeah.
And
So
scary too at the
it
same
is scary.
time.
It is scary to think that you could, from hundreds of thousands of miles away, I mean, I don't know if it's that far, but you could be in America and launch a drone strike in the Middle East and never leave like a control room.
Now, I wanted to, first of all, that's pretty awesome. But I get a little nervous about drones. Now, my husband, he works for a transportation company. And at some point, his transportation company that he works for, other transportation companies, even Amazon, at some point, might start delivering via drones.
Right.
What scares me about drones is how they can literally hover over your own backyard and in the privacy of your own home. Now, that's considered trespassing. But they can still do that. Anyone can have a drone and go wherever it is they want and see things from an aerial view without you
Right.
even
Because the
realizing.
airspace is not, well, I mean, certain airspace is not protected. It's open for everybody.
Right.
But
But how
did
does
you
that
know?
constitute with drones like in your own backyard? Like,
So if you buy a drone that has more than like a couple 100 feet radius, like those really high powered drones that can
right.
go miles, you have to actually register that with the state.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. So if you have a drone that has like capabilities of going pretty far distance, like where you couldn't see it anymore, then they have to be registered with the state.
Hmm.
And I think that that's why, because what if someone was watching people in their homes and taking inappropriate videos or pictures, at least they'd be able to track it, I guess,
Right, right,
is that not that, that picture would still be out there, but
right. It's still,
yeah,
either way, it's still scary. I mean,
it is
drones are
scary.
used throughout the world in like different countries. Like, you were just talking about with the drones and your partner. It still scares me. And again, on the fence, like part of me likes the effects of, technology like drones, but then part of me, it gets nervous for privacy. Years ago, you didn't have to worry about that because you didn't have the internet, or it was just starting out. And now everything can be affected, especially with human interaction and computers. And, when it comes to younger kids, going on to certain social media and bullying, online bullying has increased.
Oh,
And it's definitely altered the way that I think people interact with one another. Look at us when you're on the phone. We have become somewhat accustomed to texting versus talking. We can hide behind a phone or a computer when touching base with people, where something might be a little uncomfortable to say to someone. We can now text.
right.
So we're hiding behind our technology also, and there's less interaction with humans. And I think that as we grow and we evolve, it's going to become less interaction with people and more people reading texts the wrong way. And maybe at some point it'll turn around to where people start talking again. I think there are certain instances where technology has definitely interrupted humanity and made it not as, I've seen this before where people can bully other people like online. But would you say it to that person? No, you wouldn't say
Right.
what.
And that's what, so, I recently got to go to Florida and talk with my niece, and she's 13. And we talked about bullying. And she's like, I just think, and she said the same thing, like, these people would never say this to someone's face, but they're so comfortable bullying them on all social
Absolutely,
media.
absolutely.
And I said, yeah, I said, and that's a problem with technology.
Hmm.
And also, like, she told me the school, like, if you go to an administrator and you say, hey, someone's bullying me, if it's not in person at the
Come
school,
on.
they can't do anything about it because it's online, and that's not they can't control basically what students are doing online. And I was like, well, that's a kind of a gray area,
You know what?
because
Even if schools know that it didn't happen on campus, they should still be able to help.
they should be able to do something. They should be able to contact parents and say, hey, your child is doing some questionable things on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to to have a chat with them or something.
Right. Well, look, I don't think that technology is all positive. I know for political reasons and in different countries, it's connected people, and especially as we were talking about with our other podcast regarding COVID, it's definitely been a saving grace when it came to Zoom meetings and being able to still connect with people on Zoom, Skype, even FaceTime, having conference calls on your phone. It's definitely been a saving grace for that. But at the same time, I still think that my husband, I can't tell you how many times some people could not connect to Zoom when they
Oh,
had,
I know.
right? When they would have a quote conference call or a virtual call. And it started to get annoying because you needed this whole group of people, or someone didn't know how to use it because they're not technologically savvy. So there's always, I feel like there's always something when it comes to technology that isn't a good thing. And, like you have the older generation who they really don't know technology as much as our generation. Like my mom, she's 80 and she is so technologically savvy. She knows everything. She probably knows more than me. But her generation definitely is one of the last ones that don't know as much about technology as we do. And then the younger generation or younger generation. But I think that there's a lot of positives, with technology.
Oh, I think so too.
There's definitely a lot of positives. But I also think that there's just this constant working on, and every day, like you get a brand new smart TV. Well, tomorrow there's going to be an even better one, or I just got the new Apple Watch. I'm so excited. And then 2 months later, a new one comes out, or a new iPhone comes out
Oh, yes. I mean, like,
with even
I
more
mean, and
technology.
it's always like I never have the latest in things just because I don't I don't know. I'm always just behind on the technology. And so my niece was making fun of me for my iPhone, which the screen protector is cracked. It came off when I was horseback riding, and so it fell on the rocks, and of course it got cracked. And she said, "Why don't you just go get a new one?" And I said, "Well, I mean, you're 13, so everything is paid for you, but that is not the case for all of us."
It's very true. And they can be very expensive iPhones. I know of one person in particular who always gets a brand new iPhone. And I'm like, how are you paying the $1,000 for a new iPhone?
Right.
But what he has, and similar to me and lots of other families, you have all of these kids and all of these phones, and at some point, someone's contract is going to end. So you just take over their contract, and that's a smart way to do it. But I was reading an article in preparation to this podcast, and I had read something interesting about there being an end of intimacy when it comes to technology. And I started thinking, like, I read it, but I started thinking, like, what exactly? Well, I started thinking about how, like, when I met my husband, it was a blind date. But now they have all these websites, these dating sites where you can swipe left or swipe right or whatever it is. I know there's a website where you swipe left and swipe right, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
You can virtually meet people first before you actually go out on this date. And even though that might be a saving grace for some people, it also takes away that first meeting. And what if there's such a connection and you don't think that there's much of a connection when
because it's
online.
texting, and it's
Yeah.
and it's kind of impersonal. Yeah, okay, so I did meet Mark on a dating app.
Okay.
So it kind of went like this. We connected that, we were matched or whatever, and he messaged me and asked how I was, and what, just kind of like pleasantries.
Yeah.
And then he asked me on a date within a couple of days.
Okay.
There was just basically like, "Hi, how are you? I'm so glad that we connected. Do you want to exchange phone numbers?" And then we exchanged phone numbers, and then he, texted me like, "How does your week look? Like, I'm free on these days. What do you like to do? Is there?" And then we went on a date. Very, there wasn't a lot of online chatting. Just we made plans to meet and have an actual date.
Right. Is your dog with you? Is there like an animal in the background?
My dogs are barking at the mailman.
Oh, I hear
Yes.
something in oh, okay. No, I heard there's like some kind of it sounds like a printer, and I was trying to make it out because I know you live on a farm, and I was like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what kind of animal that is. But
yes, my animals are out and they are so loud.
Aw. Oh no, that's okay. I was just trying to figure out what it was because it didn't exactly sound like a dog, you know. But listen, the way things worked out for you and Mark is great. And it works out like that for a lot of people. But what if something could possibly work out, but because of the way you met virtually, it's not the same, right? I mean,
because I think
don't
not
know.
everybody does it the way Mark and I did, where we kind of
right.
Okay, these are the I work on these days. This is, I'm not free on these days. Do you want to meet at this restaurant? And then we just very quickly met in person because we're both like, you can talk to someone forever on the internet and never really know them.
Exactly. It's so true.
And so we were just like, we will meet in person and then
I have to tell you something. And this was before all this social media and computers. I was working at a company and I wound up talking to this man on the phone, and he kept talking. And I'm working, but he was supposed to be coming in to meet with the owners of the company. Somehow we got into this long conversation, and he was coming in the following week. And I'm like, oh, looking forward to meeting you. I was married. I was just being very friendly, but you could tell on his end that he was like flirting, whereas I was just trying to like make conversation and get off the phone as quickly as I could. And then when I hung up, my coworker was like, God, this guy is like, when he meets you, he's going to like probably ask you out on a date because the way you were talking. And I'm like, what? Like, I just thought I was being nice. Well, let me tell you, I also was like, oh, I wonder what this guy does look like. Does the voice match the face? Well, Rhonda. He came in like, you could tell he was very excited to meet me. And I was very like, okay, I think I made a mistake here. And when he walked in, I was just, and unfortunately, I was very young and I know it showed.
I have the hardest time with my emotions in my face. I really do.
It's so bad. Me too. It was so bad. And so I felt so bad that when he was leaving, I said, listen, I'm really sorry by the way I reacted. I said, it has nothing to do with you. I said, I just have to maintain my professionalism when I'm here. And he goes, oh, no, I had to find a way to get out of it from the face I know I must have made, so I had to come up with the best lie. But it taught me a very important lesson, which is you just never know, what people really look like just based on what they're saying or how they're talking. And it was very much like with my husband. It was a blind date. I didn't know what he looked like. And I had asked a friend of mine who was setting us up, what's he like, blah, blah, blah. And they wouldn't tell me what he looked like. They kept saying, he's such a nice man. He's so nice. And I'm thinking, okay.
You're thinking immediately like, well, he's ugly. And that's why you're building up his personality to me.
That's why and luckily my husband was a little cutie pie, but I thought it was funny because all I'm expecting is this, oh God, like, I don't know what I was expecting. I just figured, all right, I'll meet the guy, we'll go out and then that'll be the end of it, but obviously things worked out because we're married, but that was what I was brought up with. And now people can just, and another thing is, what about the people who put pictures on these dating websites and they literally look nothing like that picture when they meet?
So Mark said that. He said, I had to meet you like right away. He said, because and I hadn't done very much online dating. Like I went on like 1 or 2 dates and it was terrible. And I was ready to give up. I was like, this is not for me. I don't enjoy it. I'm not happy. And he said, I would go on so many dates where I would meet them and they didn't look anything like their picture. And so he's like, now Yeah,
And
he's like,
that's
so
the shame
now
of
I
it
just
all.
immediately like, do you want to go to dinner? Do you want to meet for coffee? He's like, that way I can meet them in person. He said, he talked to some people for
Right.
months and
No. Before meeting
months
them?
before meeting them. And then he
Oh
said,
God.
I would meet them and it turns out they're a completely different person, like than they are online. And
You know, that's why I think it's very difficult. But I wanted to bring something else up. And the fact that you have your stepdaughter, you can probably relate to this, which is the disconnect I think a lot of people are having with one another because of their phones. Everyone's on their phone all the time, no matter what it is that you're doing, they're on the phone. Now, I grew up without this kind of technology, and having to, what do you do when you're out with your family and you're at the restaurant or at a restaurant? Well, what do? You have
right.
conversations. You
Mm-hmm.
bullshit. You talk about this. You talk about that. Now everyone is taking out their phones, and I know you've
We see
seen
it all the
this.
time and it drives us crazy because we at dinner time, even at home, when we sit down to eat, we don't have our phones out.
Us too, and that's great and very
And then
important
we
to
see
do.
in restaurants, we'll see whole families where every single person is on their phone. And we just kind of wonder, like, why are you
Mm-hmm.
even bothering to go out to dinner with your family? What's the point? You're
Exactly.
all just sitting
It's so
on your
sad.
phones. I don't know. And I don't know if it's because, like, I didn't have a cell phone until I was an adult. And I just always had made it like that. Like, you don't be on your phone when you're trying to spend time with.
Yeah, definitely technology has its ups and downs. And I think that when it comes to families, it's probably really up to the parents to do what they think is best because there's always plenty of time to be on the phone. But maybe when it's dinner time, they should, tell them to keep their hands off of technology. But anyway, well, thanks for sharing all the information. And I definitely think that it's here to stay, but hopefully it's not at any time going to destroy humanity. So, Rhonda, please tell everyone how they can touch base with you.
Everyone can find me on pretty much any social media at the Rhonda Marie. So they can just
Perfect.
look it up there.
And same with me, you guys, social media at Nothing But Julie. Hope you have a really great Thursday and enjoy your weekend. Bye, Rhonda.
Bye, Julie.